All right. Here I am. Another video and another wood pile. This one, number 3, is going to be it's just a chat about our future plans, what we plan to do with the future of our new bus. Not so much the build of it. In this one, we're going to kind of fast forward towards what we want our lifestyle to look like in the new bus. So, get a little bit of the snow off the pile. My gloves are not really waterproof, so a little bit less snow helps with that. So, in our new bus, we're going to be living in it full time. Just a quick recap if anybody finds this video randomly or doesn't know who we are, what we're about. We travel full time in a converted school bus, or we did until our school bus was fully covered in mold and the frame was all rusted out, so we're building a new one. And in the old one, when we were traveling full time, we were doing full-time ministry work, feeding homeless people, giving them clothes, giving them scriptures, praying with them, encouraging them, giving them scriptural sound advice of how they can best live their life according to the word, and just encouraging them, And then we also put out signs that said to keep the Sabbath day and just encourage people to keep the commandments of the Father. So that's what we did for a year to a year and a half. It was a little bit under a year and a half, probably like a year and a quarter. But then we found out our bus was molded, and now we're building a new one to try and get back to that kingdom work. So what our plans are, and obviously if you read the book of James, it talks about not quite making your own plans and saying, like in the book of James, it says, I will go into this city and do this and this and this. But rather you should say, Yahuwah willing, or if it's the Father's will, I will do this and this. So all the plans you're going to hear me talk about are subject to the Father's acceptance or denial of these plans. But we got a plan, or at least have a plan to take to the Father and petition him to see if it's his will. So these are our plans that we've formulated and we think are in alignment with the ways of the Father and what he wants from us. So the first and kind of biggest thing that we're going to be focused on in the new bus is what we would call kingdom work. Some people call it ministry work, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do ministry work, but really we just think of it as working for the Father's kingdom. And we do there's a lot of different outlets that we ourselves do to work for the Father's kingdom. We do the signs like I mentioned, the homeless work. Right now, this isn't my firewood. I'm doing maintaining a property for a widow who's not able to maintain it herself. She's not even actually here. She's taking care of her mother, so states away. We're taking care of her property and she's blessing us to be here, but we want to do all of that stuff. We want to, in the new bus, have a slightly greater focus on helping widows, elderly people, maybe people who are not widows or elderly, but just the same age I am. I'm just under 30 years old, but if you get into an accident or you have something where you all of a sudden can't work on your property and it needs to be maintained, we want to be able to go and help people in those situations and just be able to be a blessing to others with our time, and not need anything from them. Not have to go to somebody's house to help them and say, here's the bill. But we want to be able to go to people's properties or just, to people's houses and to help them even with their yard work. Even somebody that maybe lives in the city and is older and she needs yard work, or he needs yard work, or whatever the case may be. We want to be able to go and be a blessing to people and just be a light wherever we go, and always be able to, bring the good news of the scriptures and the coming kingdom of our Father to whoever we meet and whoever we can bless. So that's what we want to do. A little bit more greater focus on that than on the homeless outreach. When we were on our old bus, we did more of it was more fast paced. We were in a different city every single day. And sometimes, those cities were 200 miles apart. And we would go from city to city to put out our signs in high traffic areas. And we didn't only stick to big cities. We went through small cities, which is why we had to keep moving every day, because in the small cities, they're not very big. We don't want to put up like 20 signs in one city. We put up 2-3 signs per city. The bigger cities, I think we put up to like 8 or 10 signs across like in Houston, I think we put out 8 or 10 signs, Houston, Texas. So we would travel a lot, and it kind of lended itself to stopping for homeless people a lot as we would travel, because we were traveling so much, we would see so many homeless people. So those two kind of went hand in hand. And while that was good, and there's nothing wrong with that in any form, as we continued to do that longer and longer, we had less and less time to rest. And we had a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. Maybe those numbers maybe it was a 4, a 3. No, it would have been a 3, a 2, and a 1-year-old, or a newborn. 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and a newborn at the time in the bus. And we were doing this traveling full time, and it just was to the point where they needed more time resting rather than just being traveling. So that kind of started to be a problem with, like, we're trying to travel so much, but they need to be able to get out and to just live their life and not travel so fast paced, and now now those little ones have grown up to be 6, almost 5, 3, and now we've got a 1-year-old. So even more so, we have to slow down. So in the new bus, we're going to still do the homeless outreach, but it's going to be more as we just travel from place to place with a greater focus on, we'll put our signs out and stop and talk to homeless people as we pass through areas, but we want to be able to go from person who needs help to person who needs help. And we could even stay somewhere for a month or a week or however long we're needed there, and we wouldn't need anything from them. We can bless them. We could even cook meals and share meals with people, especially if it's just like one widow or one elderly person or even a small family. We can, it's not much to cook a little bit more than we're already cooking for our family of 6, and be able to bless other people with, the work that we can do with food, with fellowship. And if we can stay somewhere for a week or 2 weeks or a month in a certain area, even if we can't stay at a certain property, we can be in an area for a time, and then we'll move on to another area. And while we're moving from area to area, we can put up more signs, and we can do more, stops with homeless people. And so we can kind of do it all, but really at a slower pace. And that's what our family really needs. And also it's a little bit more sustainable because you can imagine if we're traveling sometimes 300 miles a day, that's just fuel, like the biggest cost is diesel fuel for our bus. And so if we're traveling a little bit less, our life expenses, which are food and fuel, if you decrease, oh, that's the wrong one. If you decrease food by half, then it's, then our expenses have went down by a quarter or more potentially. So that'll be good. And it'll also allow us time to be able to put more of a focus on our natural medicine that we make, that we've started making since we've been here. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of space, and once you start doing it, it's kind of like processes that take time to do, and it's not something that you would want to start and move on to the next city the next day. You kind of want to be somewhere for a couple days, get a batch of something made up and done, and then labeled and ready to be sent to people who need it. So it would allow us to do that too. I've noticed when I do these videos, the way my mind works is I go back over the things a lot, and I've noticed I'll repeat things. I'll be like, so we're going to do this, and then I keep going forward. I try not to do that as much as I can, but I think that's just something you guys are going to have to live with. Just me reiterating things helps me stay on track, make sure I don't miss anything I want to talk about. So the first focus was being able to do ministry work full-time still, just in a different capacity, more focused on people who need help. The second part of that is traveling slower. It kind of goes hand in hand. And then now we're kind of transitioning into that natural medicine. We will be able to, while we're traveling slower, be able to, and that's another thing, we can bring natural medicine to even widows or elderly people who might, I can't do my yard work because I have arthritis. We have stuff that can heal arthritis completely, take it away forever. So like we could go help them with their yard work and bring stuff to heal them all for free. And then we're down the road to another place that needs help, such a blessing. And so we can do all that stuff, but also while we're making the natural medicine and we're traveling slower, our expenses will be less. We'll be able to, like we are, not so much in this season, but before Lily's health kind of declined a little bit, we'll be able to just send out, sell more of our natural medicine that we create, so we can make more zeet and do different things like that. And we'll be able to, so much more than we were the first time, be able to fund ourselves. The first time when we were out and about, if anybody followed our journey then, remembers that we were kind of making posts quite a bit about if people could help us out with fuel or different things like for food and diapers, because we were traveling so fast, going from city to city, placing so many signs and talking to so many people that we didn't really have time for Lily to make zeet or for us to go and stop at a property, because our focus was so much on going and talking to the people that are out there that need help. And we had a ginormous heart of compassion for people that were sleeping outside in the cold in the winters, and people who didn't have food, people who didn't have scriptures, who had nobody in their life to say, hey, the Father loves you and he wants something better for you. And this book here, if you read it, it'll tell you everything you need to know, and it'll tell you how to completely turn your life towards him and live the life he designed for you. And so we felt that calling so strongly that we just ran. We just did it with every ounce of strength we had, and we didn't stop to even try and create our own funding. Well, I mean, we did do as much as we could, but now if we travel a little bit slower, we'll be able to, we believe with the numbers that we've ran and how much we think it'll cost traveling, we think we'll be able to completely self-fund ourselves, which will be a ginormous blessing to be able to not only self-fund the whole thing, but also to be able to, while we're funding it, the stuff that we are selling is bringing healing to people. Like I said, arthritis, that's a very small one, but it's a big deal for a lot of people. But we can easily, send that stuff out, bring healing to people. And if you can't afford it, we would love to still help in any way that we can. And we do send stuff to people who need it, but can't afford it. So if you need something and you can't afford it, don't hesitate to reach out and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, that's more the focus on being able to create more natural medicine with the greater time that we have, because we're traveling slower. We'll be able to fund ourselves a lot better. And it'll also open us up to be in a larger area, or be in the same area for a little bit longer, which would be able to, or which would allow us to fellowship with people a little bit more. A lot of the times when we were passing through areas, sometimes we were only in a city for a couple hours and we were on to the next one. We would go to multiple cities a day even. So we didn't have a lot of time to stop and fellowship with people. A lot of times we would place a sign, we'd be 2-3 cities down the way, maybe a state away, and somebody would comment on our post, because we would take a picture of every sign and be like, hey, I just saw this sign, in real life. I was there, this is my city. I just missed you guys. And it's oh, such a bummer. We could have stopped in fellowship with somebody, but now we're, hours away. So if we are in one area for longer, it would allow us to be able to meet up with more people, fellowship with more people, and just be a great blessing. It's just, we love sojourning so much. And now with how we've thought about things, prayed about things, and the direction that we feel the Father has led us to travel slower, I feel like it'll be just such a blessing. And what we would so this is kind of the whole train of thought, and more on the way down the road kind of a thing, unless the Father just blesses it and it's his will. our plans, what we would like, we're still praying about it. We would love to have 1 or 2 small properties, like very, very, very remote properties with no power, no water, nobody around. Just small properties to be able to go and just park the bus, you know, so like call it like a base camp, or what's the other term I was thinking? Just, yeah, but I guess base camp would be the best term. Somewhere where the bus can drive into. This is something I really missed in the last video I did, which I'll touch on in a minute. But somewhere we can just drive the bus onto a piece of property. Even if it doesn't have a spot, we can clear a spot as long as the bus can get to the property. Just a small 5-acre place where we can go, we could park, and we could let our babies run free, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we could like sit there and recharge for a month or 2, and we could build, you know, natural medicines, eat, all the stuff we do, edit all the video footage that we take, and do like a lot of the social media aspect of it. And then, you know, if we had 1 or 2 of those, and we've talked to several people about this, and a lot of people have proposed this idea to us, and we think it's a great idea. If you just had a couple of spots to where, even if it was like a shared property where other sojourners, you could, you know, we could somehow have it networked to be like this base number 2, nobody's there right now for the next 3 months, but in 3 months, somebody's planning to be there for a month. And it's just a parking spot with a campfire pit, you know, that's all it is. You bring your own stuff, you know, just, it's a spot to be for a time. And then it would allow us to have a spot where we could, you know, stop, recharge, build up more supplies for the natural healing apothecary, and also like eat and create more funding and do stuff like that. We could also use them to host feast days if it's a large enough property. But like I said, this is just, you know, ideas of if the Father wants to bless us with a small piece of property. We've got a lot of ideas of how we could utilize it. And it'd be nice, like I said, to have 1 or 2 of them, not in the same area, but like one up north where it's cooler in the summer, and one down south where it's warmer in the winter. And then that's kind of how we like to travel, to where we can be outside all year round. That'd be amazing. Those base camps would be a game changer. Anybody that has traveled in like a sojourning lifestyle, especially for, you know, longer than a month or 2, or even in a month or 2, I'm sure you'd realize it, but just having one place where you could go and not have to worry about like anything, you know, there's nobody, like there's no park ranger coming around. It's not a dispersed campsite where people are coming to check on you. It'd be your own area. And even if it's not your own, like I said, if we could network it somehow to other sojourners could utilize it, you know, it's a trusted place owned by a trusted person who's a believer, keeps the commandments, and wants you to have a place to rest, you know. It would just be amazing. So pray for us. And pray that if that's the Father's will, it come to fruition in his perfect timing, because obviously we're not ready for it yet anyways. But the thing I said that I really missed in the other video, one of the reasons we love living in a bus, that I completely missed, I just blanked out on it, I guess, when comparing a bus to a shed house. A shed house, like I said, one, you'd need property, and that's a big chunk of funding before you even get a shed. And then there's a whole permitting battle that goes into that. But really the greatest part about like property and a bus, like I was just outlining with a base camp, you don't need utilities, you don't need power, you don't need water, you don't even need a cabin on that property to go and live. When we would pull up to a property, if it's a bare property like what you see behind me, just woods, when you pull up to that property in a converted school bus, that's not your homestead at like the snap of a finger, because your house is there with you. It's already set up when you get there. You already have your power turned on. You already have your water ready to go. Maybe if it's even heated, you already have your bed made. Your clothes are right where you need them. Anybody that's gone like camping, or even doing the Feast of Sukkot, or going to a cabin, if you had like a weekend cabin or a month, you'd go up to a cabin for a month, or even if you did camping in a cabin, it's so much work to pack pots, pans, dishes. Even if it's paper plates and stuff, you have to bring all that, all your food, all your clothing, all your bed. It's so much work to go to a property or a camping spot and get set up. It's like, it's a whole day, you know? And when you pull up to a base camp property in a bus, rather than like a shed house, which can't even move and go to different properties, if you were to go in your bus, you can have multiple properties, and you go there and you're instantly at home. You've got your house is there, built and ready to go. It's so amazing. And then if you, like the idea, like with a shed house, if you find a great piece of property, you love it, you build your shed house there, you start working on this property, and then 2 years later, the zoning changes and they say, hey, you can't live in this shed on here anymore. The laws have changed. You also can't have chickens here because this isn't a rural area anymore. It's going to be completely zoned differently. And you can't do composting, toilet setups, anything. You can't do any of that stuff here. What do you do then? You've got a shed house that's built that probably nobody wants to move across the country for you, especially if you've got a longer, bigger one and it's fully built out. That's a huge insurance risk that a lot of people won't move them. And the weight alone, you know, when you go taking a shed house and converting it, it's a lot of weight, but it would be a big problem if you ran into that situation. But if you had a school bus, if you're parked your school bus, even if you lift the thing up on, you know, on blocks and you kind of get your school bus routed in, if somebody says, hey, things have changed, you can't live here in your school bus anymore, you say, okay, sounds good. Or you can try and fight it, obviously, but you could just say, sounds good. I don't really like this area anyway. Maybe some people moved in down the road that are kind of crazy. or you find out like, hey, you know, we've been here for a while and we don't like the way that the sun arcs here. And there's too much, you know, there's too many trees on the neighboring properties that we can't remove to get the sunlight in we need for solar or whatever, or garden. You'd be like, we'd like to move anyways. Or even if without the zoning, if all that stuff applies where you can't cut trees down, you don't like the sun arc, you don't like the leaf cover, which is everything we don't like about this property, you could just be like, all right, well, we're just going to sell this property. It's not what we thought it was. And you could go buy another one. And then you're not out any money or time or investment into the property because your bus is that house that can go anywhere. Such a blessing, such a blessing. We've thought about so many different angles of the bus life and everything that goes into it. And it's truly a blessing. So that's kind of our vision and petitions that we've been making to the Father about what we want our life to look like in the new bus. And yeah, if you guys feel led to pray that He would continue to bless us on the journey of building the new bus. We still need a lot of funding for the insulation, and the two biggest ticket items is just the insulation and our newer solar setup that we're going to have, which is just got a little bit more battery backup and a lot more solar panels to be able to power everything with our more stationary life. In the last video I talked about our bus kind of powered itself on the road, but if we're not moving as much, the solar panels are definitely what we'll need. So they're really cheap, but it all adds up, you know. So if you feel led to pray that the Father will bless us to be able to continue building this bus in His timing, we'd really appreciate it. And if that's something that you feel like you'd like to support and help us along on that journey to be able to get back on the road to bless other people, because that's really what we want to do. We don't at this point have a desire to go take our bus and just go to like our own property, like I was saying, and only be there and like get our own chickens and get our own sheep and can all of our food and just stay on our property. Our desires, like maybe one day that'd be cool, not to do it full time still, but just to have a property with sheep and stuff would be cool. But we also know that comes with a trade-off of you can't leave. You know, we would only be able to go in a small area around our little homestead. So right now our focus and what we desire to do is just to go out and serve others and be able to travel to different places and live a sojourning lifestyle, just like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did. So hallelujah. Like I said, if you feel blessed, or if you feel like you'd like to bless us and help us on our journey of building a new bus, our PayPal and all those links will be in the description, and we'd really appreciate it. We feel like this is what the Father has called us to do, and to raise our children doing. And it's also what we've just seen a need of looking around. We've seen that so many people have, you know, great needs on their properties, in their yards, and their vehicles even. I can do mechanical work, but a lot of times even people in those areas, like we've heard multiple stories with people who say, yeah, I really need this work done on my vehicle. And there's even mechanics that are believers in their area that just can't, they don't have the time to come and help. You know, they're right down the road, but they can't help because they're too busy with their normal jobs. we want to be able to fill that position of being able to be there for people who need the help, and be able to go to the people that need help. So, and I'm not in any way saying anything against the people that don't have the time to do it. That just comes with that lifestyle of living a grounded and rooted lifestyle. It's like, it's the rat race, you know, and even if you're trying to work out of that, like we were for a year or two, we still didn't have the time to go help others while we were trying to work out of that season of our life. So I'm in no way, you know, trying to say that those people should do better, or that it's their fault that they don't have the time. That's just how the system works, you know. But our desire is to be able to go and serve others with our time, and we really want to do that. So this is that part I was telling you guys where I'm trying to re-go through my thoughts. And now I've said this 3 times, but if you feel led to help us, I'm going to finish the thought fully this time. If you feel led to help us, the links will be in the description, and it would greatly bless us. So we'll see you in the next one. I'm not even going to attempt this time to split a double because this guy, there's a knot or something in here. We'll catch you in the next one.